Well, hey, hot mamas, and welcome to Crazy Sexy Menopause. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. And if you don't know me, my name is Bette Vargas, and I create content around menopause that will educate pre, peri, and post-menopausal women on how to live more vibrantly through better applications of my three keys of mindset, meals, and movement. Today, we are talking about menopause in the C-suite, and my guest today is Dr. Barbara Mark. Dr. Barbara Mark, PhD, has a deep-held passion for working with women in midlife and has built a decades-long career as an elite leadership, career, and life strategies coach and advisor to senior executive women. She is a recognized expert on the psychology of women and is the leading authority on midlife stages of adult development and how these stages, inclusive of menopause, impact a woman's career development and life choices. Welcome, 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 Barbara. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. And it's just a delight to be joining you this morning, Bette.
Thank you so very much for coming today. So, Barbara, how does a woman avoid hot flashes in the boardroom?
Ah, gosh. Well, there are several things that I give to women to prepare. First of all is making sure that they don't eat anything spicy for dinner the night before. Don't eat anything spicy. Don't put hot sauce on your scrambled eggs that morning.
Right?
Yeah. Stay away from caffeine. Make sure when you're presenting, that you have a nice big glass of ice water. This is, again, this size glass. This is my morning tea. Yes.
This is my lemon water. Yes.
There you go. A glass filled with ice with some water in it. And just by putting your hand around the glass, it can help to bring the temperature of the body down. Breathing is so important. Breathing, really getting yourself into a relaxed mindset. And one of the challenges, Bette, that women encounter in terms of hot flashes in the boardroom is that when a woman is presenting and she is having a hot flash, or she's feeling the anxiety that so often accompanies menopause, is the people viewing her are going to imagine that she's uncomfortable, that she doesn't know her material, that she doesn't know her numbers, and it's going to diminish her credibility, because if the company and the people present have not been educated about menopause, then they don't know what's going on with this person.
That is an interesting perspective. I know that at least for me, whenever I would have when I've interviewed other women about the anatomy of their hot flash and what's going on with them when they are actually experiencing it, it's something that what they have shared with me is that there's some kind of emotional trigger that's happening, so they get it's either excited or anxious or something like that, and that brings on a hot flash. And so being in front of a group of men, I could definitely see how that would have them be apprehensive, even though they do know their material.
Exactly. And another point that's so important is, dear God, don't wear anything silk, especially not a silk scarf.
I know.
I mean, a silk blouse can be lovely, but it can take you down.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And it's funny because silk is a natural fiber, and they say, there's natural fibers are great, but not this one.
Not this one, no. I mean, that's why people wear silk underwear when they're going skiing in a very cold environment. It's to stay
Ah,
super warm. Yes.
okay. I did not know that. I'm not a skier, so I did not know that. But you
Well,
learn something new every day.
learn something new every day. I'm not a skier either, but
Uh-huh.
uh, there were times when I was going to various events that having silk long underwear was valuable for outside events in cold environments. Anyway,
Hmm.
yeah, so it's valuable for a woman to get comfortable presenting and again breathing. And I'm sure you help women with their uh, ability to control certain things in their body with their breath,
Right.
and certainly with mindset, knowing knowing that they know their material, knowing that they're confident in this. And
Hmm.
also, I found some women are comfortable with a sense of humor.
Ah.
And when a hot flash is happening and it's it can be, pretty visible to other people for some women.
Yeah, yeah. And
Some women,
yeah, and disengaging everyone and making them laugh, not taking it so seriously. It helps other people in the room to relax a little bit.
well, exactly. Being able to acknowledge it yourself, saying, "Excuse me, I'm experiencing my own little microclimate over here," is,
Yes.
helps
Private
to.
summer.
Right, exactly, exactly. Yes.
Well, now, let's move on to like gender equality in the workplace. I and we had discussed briefly this 2021 study, and the findings from that Mayo Clinic proceedings stated that the U.S. estimates $1.8 billion in lost work time per year due to women experiencing menopause symptoms because women, but also I went took it a step further and I did a little more research and I found that in Australia the number is 17 billion, and then globally, according to Bloomberg, they estimate it at that loss of work time to be $150 billion. So, because women are intrinsic to the national economy, what steps can organizations take to ensure that menopausal women have equal access to opportunities and support in the workplace, considering the potential impact of menopause on their productivity and well-being?
Well, first of all, I was so excited that the Mayo Clinic published the results of their study. The US is very far behind other countries. Um,
Yes.
about 12 years ago, I started being in contact with an organization in the UK because the research I was doing, the only place I found anything about menopause was in the UK. There was an organization that was just beginning its work called Henpicked, and the women that there were really uh, eager to get companies educated about menopause. Over the course of the last 10 years, they've done fabulous work. And they had published, one of the universities there in cooperation with NPIC, had done a study very similar to the Mayo Clinic study,
Okay.
studying the economic impact. Then finally, over the past couple of years, we began to see finally conversations about menopause in the United States, but still it was difficult for companies to take it seriously because it's a women's issue and it's something that women should be handling by themselves. Now that this Mayo Clinic study has come out, now they're talking about money. Now they're talking about the bottom line. Now companies can begin to pay attention.
Right.
And there was also an article recently in the New York Times about the work that Henpecked has been doing. And their theme is to create a menopause-friendly workplace. My theme has been creating a menopausitive workplace. So
I
there,
love that. I
yeah,
love
thank
that.
you. And so companies that are global, that are based in the UK as well as in the United States, are now getting on board with learning about how to create a menopause friendly workplace or a
Mhm.
menopausitive workplace. There are so many things that companies can do. Betty, the most important thing is that the company create an environment of education around menopause, that they do workshops. I have done virtual workshops for companies, basically just explaining to people, both women and men, most importantly men, but it's so important because a lot of women don't understand what they're experiencing,
Mhm.
and make sure that they understand that this is a natural and normal process that women go through. Women's bodies are incredibly complicated. I mean, let's face it, we create life inside of our bodies. That takes a fair amount of hormonal activity in our bodies. And when we go through the transition of the ending of our reproductive years, that there's going to be a lot happening. And it's just a normal process, but it can severely impact women in the workplace, especially if they don't have the opportunity to go to their manager and say, this is what I'm experiencing. I would love to be able to have a USB powered small fan at my desk. It would be great to have access to, ice cold water. It would be great to have some flexibility in my schedule. Um,
Mhm.
and to be able to call in the morning to your manager and say, I've been up all night with hot flashes and night sweats, and I'm no good coming into the office. Um, the
Uh,
most important thing is the education so that everybody understands what it is, and a woman can get the support of the people around her.
Yeah. Now, Angelo is saying menopositive
Yes.
a menopositive workplace. That elegantly says it all. Yes. And so this brings me to my next question, actually, which you probably have answered a little bit of it. You've developed programs to bring awareness into the corporate and professional settings. So, how do you, one, go about educating the corporate leadership on this topic? And two, how do you help them to develop a menopause policy for women going through this time of their lives?
Well, first of all, it's important that they understand, again, the financial implications.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, I've used information from the UK study and generalized it to the US situation, indicating that women's productivity is negatively impacted. There are many, many senior women who
Yeah. And
have
how
decided
was that received?
well, and now that this Mayo study has come out, it really elevates that conversation in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the financial impact in the minds of the leadership of a company saying, oh, now I see. This is not just, one individual woman having a difficult time. This is all of the women in my company are going to go through this at some point,
Right.
and that's going to have an impact. Many senior women have quit their jobs, Betty. They have left
Wow.
their positions because they were experiencing so much brain fog. They were experiencing so much anxiety that they felt incapable of doing their jobs. If they haven't left, many women turn down promotions because they feel like they really wouldn't be able to handle the additional responsibility. That has a negative impact on the
Yeah,
company.
I've read that. I've read that, and according to the UK study, and you're right, a lot of the information that I've come across was outside of the United States, and so I agree with you that they are far, far ahead of us in terms of the studying, in terms of solutions to the issues, and so I'm wondering, this one particular study that I came across said that businesses with more female bosses make more money. And now my question to you is, do you find that female executives here in the United States are more sensitive to the challenges of menopause in the workplace and attempting to put policies in place to support their female employees? Or are they kind of turning a blind eye to the issues in favor of the corporate bottom line?
Both and, Betty. There
Mm.
are there are some women in leadership who do turn a blind eye to it. I've had some conversations with women who will say to me, is menopause a thing?" And because their menopause was,
Wait, are they
you know,
young?
no, well, not really young, but if they've gone through menopause, their menopause was nothing. It was a blip on the radar, you
Yeah,
know.
and it's important for people to know that everyone's menopause experience is different. And it's different not only according to each woman, but it's unique in relation to cultures and
Yes,
ethnicities, and so
yes.
it's for. So I'm shocked to hear a woman say that.
Well, it really is shocking. And then it does require educating that woman the same way you would educate a male executive. But one of the things that's really has been helping a lot, Betty, is there are so many women talking about menopause now. It helps to have celebrities. It helps to have people in highly visible positions. Michelle Obama talking about menopause and the impact that it has, so that again it generalizes to the population as, oh, this is a thing that all women experience, and
Hmm.
some women can have a very difficult time with it. Therefore, A, having compassion, B, having the understanding that certain, honestly, very simple accommodations can be made in the workplace for women to make sure that they're able to do their jobs comfortably and are understood by their coworkers and their teams. It's very important, that education.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and you're right. It doesn't take much to have a woman feel comfortable in her environment, in her work environment, because when you are comfortable, you're more productive. So now, in your work, have you encountered any companies that have specific policies or practices in place to prevent or address potential age and gender discrimination towards menopausal women, ensuring that they are treated fairly and respectfully throughout their careers?
Very few and far between. Very few
Oh.
and far between. And yet that's increasing. And I'm delighted to see that Henpicked, who have really fantastic programs in place,
Mhm.
are coming over to the United States with their global companies and bringing that information in. It's what it does is increase awareness across the board. More companies are going to become aware and be able to create menopause policies and make sure that whatever environment the woman is in terms of her managers and her teams and her coworkers, that there's an understanding that this woman is not experiencing a lack of capacity. She's not experiencing, a decline in mental health. What it is she's going through menopause. It's time limited, and the woman is absolutely more than capable of doing her job. And when a woman is surrounded by that kind of support, it makes it much more easy for her to feel comfortable and confident.
Now, I do have to say that I'm bringing up ethnicity into the picture because for some women, especially African American women and women of color, present differently in their menopause symptoms, and so there's some women who can experience menopause in their 40s and then continue to have those symptoms on through and past retirement. So it's not finite for every woman.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Right. Well, I will raise my hand for that one, Betty. There's this white woman over here started very early menopause. I started menopause when I was 38, and I had symptoms well into my 60s. I actually experienced menopause when I was 51, so do the math. That's 13 years that I was like up and down with symptoms. And I think the universe gifted me with that experience so that I would have the opportunity to really be able to educate women about what the experience is like and how to manage it.
I agree with you there. Because I experienced menopause early as well, and am still experiencing menopause,
Yes.
and I believe that my question was, why is this happening for me, and it's happening for me because now that I'm looking back, I couldn't relate to a lot of women who were either because I've been active all my life, and so because I was active, because I ate well, because I exercised regularly, and did all of the things that journaling and meditating, and this was my lifestyle, and then to have this happen for me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really weird.
Yes.
Why, what's going on, and how do I deal with this? Not only for myself, but, around with the people around me. And it's when I first began having symptoms, I didn't recognize those symptoms. It was the people around me, namely my children, who recognized a difference in me. And so for a lot of women out there who are premenopausal, and not knowing, just understand that perimenopause is not going to say, hey, I'm here,
Right.
deal with me. You've got to be prepared before it happens, so that, because and it's not something that you're even going to recognize. Other people will see it before you do. So I really want to impress upon that, and I appreciate you sharing that it's not just an ethnic issue. It's something that happens for everyone, and it's proof that each person's experience is unique.
Absolutely unique. Absolutely. I mean, women can have experiences like you and I have had, Betty, where it was a very long period of time where we're being impacted by menopausal symptoms. And there are women again who for whom it's just a blip on the radar. They go through
Yes.
it with barely a symptom, and they don't understand how, uh, without getting too much into the weeds about what happens hormonally,
Mm-hmm.
serotonin lives in every system in our body. And
Mm-hmm.
so when there's a drop in serotonin and a drop in progesterone, which also lives in many symptoms in the body, every system in our body can be impacted. And so you can be having symptoms of menopause, whether it be skin breakout or dry eyes or
Right, right.
digestive issues. It's all kinds of aches and pains that you didn't have
Itching,
before.
yeah.
Yeah.
Everything, yeah.
I want to ask you, how did you, as an African American woman, address your symptoms of menopause? What worked for you?
You know, adopting a clean lifestyle, eliminating all of the sweets, because I am a recovering sugar addict. And when I realized that those things were not only the sugars, but the spicy foods were impacting the way that I would feel the next day, and not even the next day, sometimes minutes or hours later. I at first I was in denial about it, and then once I realized, okay, this is what it is, I'm not going to do the hormone replacement, because I had already spoken to women who did that and then got off, because they were deciding, okay, well, I'm going to do the hormone replacement. And once they got off, all of their symptoms came rushing back, and they said, I don't want that experience. I'll just go through the whole thing. And so it was really about eating well, exercising, eliminating foods that brought on those symptoms, and just meditating. So it's continuing to do what I did, but to not be inconsistent about it, to do it on a regular basis. And that's what's really been helping me. Now, there are times when, I mean, who can tell what stress is? The body recognizes any kind of stress, whether it's positive or negative. And so when I realized that, okay, I'm stressed out, it's time to take a step back, reassess what I'm going through, reassess what's happening, and then make changes in my life, either eliminating the stressor, or changing a different type of exercise, or whatever it was that I was doing, because I've been tracking my life literally, and I really think that women should track what's going on in their life. I think that, tracking what you eat, tracking how you exercise, tracking your mental state, tracking, your emotions, tracking the people in your life that are, how you're experiencing these people. Are there some people in your life that bring you joy? Are there people in your life that stress you out? Well, you may have to make some assessments in terms of, like, do I really want this person? Do I really want this stress in my life? And so it's those types of things that I do that that keep me balanced, during menopause. What are some things that you did?
Very much the same, very much
Mm-hmm.
the same, Betty. And uh, it was difficult because I was having symptoms that I just didn't understand. And of course, at that time, I mean, back in the dark ages when I was in my late 30s, it was uncommon for the medical establishment to have any recognition of what was happening with women. OBGYNs didn't have
Right,
it. I mean, even
right.
today,
And our
that
parents never talked about it.
never, never. And so I would get patted on the head and say, well, well, we really don't know what's going on. And so I was left to my own devices and did pay attention to, I learned by trial and error in terms of foods, and recognized that exercise was very helpful for me. Um, I had already been a meditator since my late teens, and so that helped a lot. Um, One of the things that you mentioned, Betty, a little while ago was how important it is for younger women who are pre um, perimenopause to be educated about it as well, so that they do have an understanding and can begin to recognize the symptoms. And also, one of the things that I've talked with women about is family planning. Now, a lot of women are very interested in family planning these days because they're focusing on their career and making sure that they're going to get a foothold in their career before they begin having children. Something that I bring up to women in terms of family planning and menopause is that you can't always predict it, but given that most women sort of puddle around a certain age in terms of when they feel symptoms, you may end up having a teenager going through their adolescence when you're going through menopause, and that can
That's
be a hot
right.
mess.
Oh my gosh. Yes, puberty and menopause, not a good combination.
Not a good combination.
Not only
Absolutely.
that, it's also something for pre and perimenopausal women to consider is that the later you decide to have children, you may only want one, but you can also have two. It's more prevalent for women in their perimenopause stage to have multiple births. So that's also something
Yes,
to consider as well.
exactly.
Especially if multiple births run in your family.
Oh gosh. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Now, what, if anything, can women do to address potential biases and stigmas related to menopause in the workplace? And should that even be their responsibility? Should it be the responsibility of the woman or the company? What do you think?
Well, again, that's a both and situation. Certainly, it is the responsibility of the company. And again, as we move forward in time, more education becoming available to companies. Again, now that this Mayo study has come out and companies recognize that there are dollar signs attached to this, now they're really listening. Now they're perking up and saying, oh, now I need to really pay attention to this as a very important issue because now we've been given the financial picture. And so it is incredibly important that a company educate everyone in the company about menopause. Also, it's important that the woman herself be educated about menopause. Of course, in a menopause training, all of the women in the company are learning about menopause as well. And so it's important that a woman understands so that uh, she can minimize her self consciousness about it, any embarrassment about it, that she can understand that maybe there are things that she can, begin to talk with her OBGYN about. The North American Menopause Society gives women the opportunity to find a menopause specialist in their
Right.
area. And so because every woman's experience of menopause is unique, they're going to require uh, different adaptations. Some women are going to experience really severe anxiety. Um, which is horrible
Yes.
for women in the workplace to experience, and it's very observable by their peers and their teams. And so giving women the education, therefore giving them the permission to take care of themselves, to do whatever they need to do, to go to their manager and say, uh, I would like some accommodation in my schedule, is it possible that I could move my desk closer to an open window? I mean, all kinds of things that can be really, really easy for a company to do. Having a quiet room for women,
Yes.
to be
Yes.
able to go and take 15 minutes and sit and be quiet, or go and cry, or uh, deal with a particularly persistent and the hot flashes I had, it would pour off the ends of my hair. I mean, it would look like someone dumped a bucket of water over my head.
No.
Oh, it was
Oh
unbelievable,
my
Betty.
gosh.
Yes.
I have never had hot flashes like that. Actually, for the most part, and this is something that's interesting too. I didn't really have hot flashes. I had night sweats.
Oh, yes, yes,
So
yes.
the night sweats, I literally would wake up drenched,
Hmm.
and so that's where it would. Thank God it would happen in the middle of the night.
Yes,
So, but
yes.
but I did have a friend of mine who, we used to do shows together, hair shows. I was a hair model, and she was the designer. And so we were at an event one time, and she turned around to me, and she, like you, she was literally drenched in sweat. And at that particular time, I wasn't having hot
Hmm.
flashes or anything. And
Yeah.
I couldn't relate. I literally could not relate, but I was like,
Hmm.
it's not going to happen to me. But then it did. So
Right.
never say never, ladies.
Right, right, exactly. And then you also brought up the issue of ageism and gendered ageism in the
Exactly.
workplace,
Yes, I was.
and it
Mm-hmm.
it is it's an issue that finally is being addressed, but oh my gosh, it is so slow coming,
Mm.
uh, and it's really important that women understand again and educate themselves about what they can do to address ageism, uh, and and menopause is certainly a part of that. There is had and has been for the past almost 5 years now, and now it's really picked up a lot of speed and recognition about positive aging and addressing ageism. There are several people who are really vocally addressing ageism, and it's another thing that needs to be understood in the workplace, and also companies need to understand the economic impact of ageism.
So, in your experience, what are some effective strategies women have employed to overcome age related biases and stereotypes in the workplace? And how can they proactively position themselves for success?
One of the things is making sure that the women stay up to date on technologies. It's one of the complaints that companies will have, is that a person who is older is not doesn't have the understanding of the newer technologies, and so it's valuable for women
Mm-hmm.
to be able to keep herself educated about the shifts and changes, about new technologies that are being used in the workplace, and that varies a lot by industry. And so staying informed and becoming if her job requires it, or at least requires an understanding to be able to direct team members and in the use of technologies. it's also important that she feel age positive herself. One of the things that's very difficult in our youth oriented culture
Mm.
is as women age, we begin to feel very self conscious, supported profoundly by our anti aging media. Um, that
Absolutely.
she begins to lose confidence as she ages, and it's a death knell for a woman who feels uncomfortable being quote unquote old and dealing in an environment where there is ageism, because then she begins to unconsciously collude with that ageism and lose confidence. And so it really helps if the woman is working with a coach or has access to a peer group that can really support her in helping her to acknowledge the amount of wisdom and industry knowledge that she has. She has institutional knowledge that is so valuable to the company, and to be able to for the woman to specifically address that in her environment, to be able to impress upon whoever she reports um, to come up with good ideas about how to use that institutional knowledge, projects, how she can contribute to and benefit the company, um, and feeling good about the fact that aging is, again, a normal and natural thing. It doesn't mean that by the time you're 35 or 40 or 60, it doesn't matter. You're still the same person, and you still have the knowledge that you have, and the confidence that you can have because of all that you've acquired. And that's just one of the most important things, Betty, is for a woman to really acknowledge what she brings to the table.
Now I hear you, and we see before we speak, and so there are people who may, um, see the gray hair or see the, the wrinkle here or there, and perceive or assume that this person is like old, not only in look but in mind as well. Especially if the young person, especially if the person who is their senior is a a younger person, and they
Mm-hmm.
may see that elder as their mother. So how does a woman, kind of sideswipe that, or just put that person at ease and say, look, I deserve to be in the room.
Well, first of all, I have to acknowledge that ageism in the workplace is incredibly prevalent. Gendered ageism in the workplace is incredibly prevalent, and it isn't easy to
Hmm.
address. It isn't easy to deal with. I mean, sometimes it feels like we're pulling mud up a hill to try to get our work environments, to appreciate what senior women, mature women uh, bring to the company. And so, in that scenario where maybe you're reporting to a younger person, which is not unusual, um,
Right.
is to uh, be as collaborative as you possibly can. Again, it's developing that internal compass, that internal sense of confidence and well-being in in the person that you are at whatever age you are, and uh, be as collaborative as you possibly can, and uh, and in collaboration, it means that maybe you're talking to a younger person, and you might invite them to share something with you that they might be feeling uncomfortable about.
Hmm.
Develop a relationship with that person, um, so they realize you're a full and you know, important person in their sphere of influence, and it's when they begin to see you as a person and not their mother, and not just a random old person, when they begin to see you as someone who takes an interest in them as well as them taking an interest in you, then they begin to lose that stereotype and see you as you
Yeah.
and as an individual. But I got to tell you, I mean, it's like I can't paint a rosy picture of it. It's hard.
Yeah.
It really is
Yeah.
hard.
And not try, and I feel personally that women should basically act your age, not necessarily, trying to be someone you're not in terms of like
Yes.
acting youthful. Don't act youthful unless that is your personality,
Right.
because it comes off as phony and disingenuous. And so
Right.
yeah, and I think especially from my years teaching, I found that to be true. That you know, younger people see right through that, and nowadays they call you on it, so it can be
Yes.
embarrassing.
Well, it can be, and it really it. I mean, honestly, it makes a mockery of aging,
Yeah,
because there's something about aging with grace
right.
and approaching it with grace, and yes, acting your age in a way that is consistent with your personality.
Right.
Yeah, I see women who are, uh, they do strange things with their hair. They wear clothing that's, that may look age inappropriate, and it does come off as disingenuous or comical, and
Mm,
therefore it diminishes the opportunity to be taken seriously. And you're right, a younger person can see right through that, and it can be um, off-putting for the younger person, because then they think like, okay, well, this person really is not. They're just putting on a show,
yeah.
and
Well, and there is a way to look trendy and elegant at the
yes,
same time.
oh gosh, yes,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
yeah.
And there are so many now resources. A friend and colleague of mine, Stephanie Odell, has a company called Celebrate the Gray,
Oh, love
and
that.
she has models who are women who are, anywhere between 45 and 50, 60, up through 90s, who are able to model what it looks like to be
Mm,
older, and to look well put together, to have style, to have, there are a lot of women who dress very stylistically,
yeah.
and you're right, and look elegant at the
Mm-hmm.
same time.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, you have cited women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s as being in the most dynamic and important years of their professional lives. What do you say to encourage women of color in particular who are navigating the intersectionality of ageism, racism, and menopause bias while also just trying to do their jobs?
Yeah. I it's it's a challenge. It's we're in a space in our country right now where we're so polarized around the issues of race, that it is something that companies are beginning to take more seriously. There are still companies where DEI, A, doesn't include age discrimination, and B, the companies that do it just to check the box and don't really have policies in place. And so, uh, well, first of all, those dynamic years, I won't get into the weeds again about all of the developmental phases that a person goes through, that everyone goes through, men and women, but women have the addition of menopause and culture to deal with. And so there are phases of going through midlife that really impact our experience of ourselves and our experiences of our career. Understanding that, I educate women about those stages of adult development. There are 5 very specific stages that women go through in their own timeline, but they're all there. And it's very helpful for women of color to understand who they are and again what they bring to the table, supporting them in being confident in what they do know and the skills that they have. I also encourage women of color to develop supportive collegial environment or relationships rather with other women of color, so that they don't feel isolated and alone in an experience of discrimination. Um, if there is a DEI program in place at the company, to go to that DEI spokesperson and talk with them about whatever you're experiencing, and having that individual, because they work inside of the company, they know the company politics, they know uh, and the temperament of the company, and to get some support from that individual or that department, and help the person develop alliances with people inside of the company who really do have a positive relationship to ageism and racism in the company, that they support the efforts of appreciating all people equally and providing opportunities for all people equally. And so someone in the DEI position is going to know who those people are within each individual company. They're going to say, develop a collegial relationship with this person or that person to really solidify who you are. And then the other thing is really focus on your community. Get support from the people around you, get support from your friends, get support from your family. Because facing the intersection of racism and ageism in a company can be a very uh, demoralizing experience. And as a woman of color, you want to get as much support as you can inside of and outside of the company. And then again, knowing what you know and making sure that you bring that to the table. There is Shelley Archambault, who was a really amazing CEO, bought and sold companies, a very, very senior executive in certain companies, wrote a book called Ambition. Um, and another woman, which is very helpful for women to read. Another woman wrote a book called Twice as Hard, for women of color, because women of color have to work twice as hard to get the kind of support and recognition. So those kinds of resources are helpful. That author of that is Mary Giradusi, and it's and I know these people, and they're great women, and they're women who provide a tremendous amount of information and support for women of color. But again, I want to say that it's challenging, and I'm all the time giving women of color that I work with pep talks about how to go in and face the next day with calm, with centeredness, with self confidence, and to sometimes have some difficult conversations with people.
Yeah, it absolutely is a challenge. I must say that. Crazy Sexy Menopause teaches the concept of mindset along with nutrition and exercise as being a key to vibrant living for menopausal women. Similarly, A Time of My Own inspires women in this age bracket to face opportunities and challenges with courage, passion, grit, wisdom, and grace. And A Time of My Own is your website and your business, the name of your business. So, can you speak to the value of mindset in terms of courage, passion, grit, and grace?
Yes, yes, and its mindset is so incredibly important, and I'm always delighted to see that that's something that you incorporate into the work that you do with women. How we feel about ourselves, how we see ourselves in the world, um, is so important, and recognize that some situations require grace and some situations require grit, and it's it comes from that place inside of ourselves that says, I know who I am, I know what I know, I know what my experience has been, I know what I bring to the table. I know that through life I have acquired a wisdom that allows me to be centered within myself, and I can really appreciate what I can contribute and make it possible for others to observe and appreciate what I can contribute. And when a situation requires that grit, that you can do that appropriately, and you can do it also with grace. And so it's really that mindset of appreciating who you are, really being in a positive mindset about yourself, what you're capable of, and what you will continue to be able to contribute to whatever environment you find yourself in. And to recognize that what you have to contribute is fabulous.
That's beautiful. And as we wrap up, are there any emerging trends or advancements that you believe will further enhance the prospects of female leadership in the coming years?
I do. I do. And I want to say that, I mean, just even the most recent things like that Mayo study coming out, like all of the positive um, opportunities there are for older women to see themselves. Advertisers are beginning to get on board and recognize that this cohort of women um, are important. They have disposable income. They make 80% of the buying decisions in the family household. They control companies. They Women are in their 50s and 60s are the fastest growing population of entrepreneurs, and women of color are growing businesses incredibly fast, and so
Absolutely.
it's just uh, it's the economy of it that's going to get people to pay attention, and the more they pay attention, the more that they recognize, oh, wow, mature women really do have institutional knowledge. They have that ability to be relational in the way that some men just are not. Their capacity to develop people and embrace people in a way that encourages productivity
Hmm.
is very successful. There are just some leadership traits that women have that make a company really become more economically successful, and to have an environment, a culture that supports people's development and growth. And so the more we see about about positive aging, about anti-ageism, although I don't so much like the word anti-ageism, but
Right.
it's a popular term.
Hmm.
Um, but
Relatable.
positive, yeah, it's positive aging
Hmm.
and recognizing that uh, women in our 70s, 80s, and 90s are doing amazing things out there in the world, in the corporate world, in the political world, in the world of philanthropy. It's amazing. And the more we bring attention to that, the more opportunities women will have.
That is so true. I agree with you 100%. Barbara, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been quite an insightful conversation. And as I mentioned, your website is atimeofmyown.com, and you can also be found where I know of you on LinkedIn, at Barbara Mark PhD. So, is there any other way for anyone wanting to see more about you or contact you or to talk to you about your work? Is there any other way that people can contact you?
Well, I always invite people to email me. I'm always available to people who just need a quick conversation. Sometimes a quick, shot in the arm to be able to face a situation, and they can contact me at Barbara at a time of my own. I welcome people contacting me, and LinkedIn is a good place because then you get to see some of the other articles that I've written, um, and my website.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful.
Betty,
And
thank you. Thank you so much
thank
for
you.
having this conversation, having this incredibly important conversation about menopause in the C-suite. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for sharing this time with me today. So now, and thank you, everyone watching, for joining me. Click subscribe if you like this interview and want to see more content like this. And if there's a topic that you'd like more information on, let me know in the comments. Until next time, always remember it's your life. Live it well.